I've just decided to have an impromptu chat with Jill Jenrick, who is an NDIS support worker, I think is right. Let's just bring her in so I can ask her. How you going, Jill?
I'm good, thanks, Rod. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. So what's your job title? What do you do?
I am an NDIS project officer, soon to be coordinator of supports.
What's the difference between a project officer and a coordinator, just so I know?
Probably just more responsibility.
More things to do for no more money, obviously, of course. Yeah.
No time to myself whatsoever.
So why are you doing it?
Because I love it.
There you go. So how long have you been doing the NDIS work?
Since it came out in my area, that I've been pretty much researching before it was accessible in the area where I live. But yeah, it's roughly about 2 years now.
So it was a passion for you from the beginning, sort of thing, really?
Well, I worked in aged care for 17 years before that and supported a lot of people that should have had the access to the NDIS funding way back then, but because there was no NDIS, they were put in an aged care centre. So it was very depressing, really, to see that some young as 25 moving into an aged care centre because there was nothing else.
And has the NDIS changed that?
I hope so. The ones that I had cared for, I do know that they're on NDIS funding now and have their own place. They're outside of that nursing home where I used to work.
Huge.
Yes. Yeah.
So much more dignity, so much more everything. Really that was the aim of the NDIS, I think, in the beginning, to give some dignity to people living with disabilities, I think.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that they got out of it is, the social model of care. It wasn't so much the medical model where they were put somewhere because there was nowhere else. Because of their diagnosis, they had to be cared for and there was nowhere else, so they were put in inappropriate groupings. So now with the social model of care and being funded that way, they're able to live in their own homes, make their own decisions, make their own appointments, all of those kind of things, and be less reliant on a system that wasn't really funded for them.
So how are you seeing the NDIS? Do you think it's doing a good job?
Majority, yes. I think the biggest improvements is just knowledge around it, that there's still so many questions that people have about the NDIS. So the more we can educate people on how it works, how you gain the funding, what to say, what to write on a letter, those kind of things. So more people have access to it and the right kind of funding goes to the right area. The great things that I've seen is just the community access that people have. It's all about being accepted in the community and having that one-on-one support by a support worker. Like even in the home renovations, all that kind of thing, so people can stay at home a lot longer, and being able to have a holiday, those kind of things. It's really empowering to know these things are happening because of the NDIS.
Sometimes it's the simplest things, like, before you have to be asked your friends to do things, so therefore you wouldn't go out in the evening because you think, I'm going to have to come back, I'm going to have to ask my friend to help me into bed, that kind of thing. So now, because of the NDIS support, these people can be happy and confident to go out and live somewhat of a normal life, if you want to use the word normal.
Exactly, because the way government funding worked before under disabilities, with my limited knowledge of what used to happen, the way I saw it was that organisations got that funding, not the person with a disability. So the organisation had that empowerment of, no, you'll receive supports at this time because that's when we have a support worker available to you.
So the organisation had the power.
Yeah. It was taken away from the person who mostly needs it.
So now the empowerment is slowly shifting back towards the person who really should have the empowerment. And when I've spoken to you, where you work, basically they say that it's imperative that you always keep what the person wants in mind, what the person needs in mind, rather than you deciding what they need, let them decide what they need.
Yeah, it's the person-centred approach. It's that you just provide all the information if you need to, so that they can make their own informed choice and decision. It's what a lot of people, that we just do. Some people need assistance in providing that information. They've hit barriers throughout their life that has actually limited their opportunities to find that information. So that's the most empowering thing I think we can do for somebody, is educating them, letting them know their rights and responsibilities and everything, and allowing them to make their own decisions. What time they want to have a shower, what time they want to go to bed, what they want to watch on TV is things that a lot of people take for granted. But now with NDIS funding and appropriate services, people are making these decisions that have never been able to before.
Right, and look, the NDIS we're all extremely grateful for. I know I am, and the community in general. It's a huge step from what we had before, which was basically nothing.
Yeah.
So while we're going to now talk about some of what I see the problems, in doing so, I'm not taking away from what the NDIS gives, but what I am saying is there are still some problems. Now, the way I see it, we're not party political here, but I see that the original model for the NDIS is somewhat different to what it is now. I won't get you going to that because I don't want to get you into trouble.
And go on for too long.
But it's still a wonderful thing. But then it's about giving empowerment, and I think it was to allow people to live a life of the equivalent that somebody without a disability could. I think that was the aim. Am I correct on that?
Well, I do believe that my aim, I suppose this is my opinion of what it is, it's so that we're unemployed, so a person doesn't have to rely on somebody for what their wants and needs and everything are. I think it's more that way.
Well, you mentioned these were things that I struggle in, and I don't think we've got an answer for this, but just to bring it up, you were talking about a client that you work with that had an iPad that was 4 years old, and you struggled to get it renewed to a newer model. Now, let's face it, a 4-year-old iPad is a long way behind what's current. And in a normal life, with normal dignity, you would be allowed to get an iPad every 2 or 3 years or 4 years. Yeah. So do you understand the logic of why it was a difficulty, or do you not understand?
I understand that people's gaining this financial empowerment may be taken advantage of by some, or that maybe a person needs more assistance in gaining those appropriately and being cost effective. So I know nobody should be able to just go out and buy whatever they want. It's got to make sure.
But every 4 years, I mean,
yes.
If I don't get a new iPad every 2 years, I start to shake. Yeah. I mean, it's just something that in my life, I mean, let's be honest, if you've got a mobility impairment and you can't move around a lot, or you're restricted, a lot of your focus and a lot of your enjoyment comes from that exact technology. So it's really a major focus in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's been another fight that we know of this lady who has had the same wheelchair, I think 6 years, electric wheelchair. And, the suspension's a bit hatted on it. She's got to actually speed up to go over some doorways and actually kind of do a mono, you could say, to get into a few facilities.
Well, to me, that's a no-brainer. It should be. It's not safe.
Yeah, well, it's been difficult. She still doesn't have a new wheelchair, and yet we've put in the documentation that it's had a risk. I've had a technician come and do like an overhaul on it. That has all been funded by the NDIS, so that's great. But we've got
Did you get a risk assessment for what's going on with it?
Yeah, and we've done a couple of incident reports. I can't go and tell that lady that it's dangerous, she can't use it. That's her only...
She has to use it, it's her legs.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's like me saying to my father, who's more elderly, but he's very sprightly still, but say, look, Dad, you can't walk around anymore, your legs are getting old,
exactly.
You better sit down.
Nobody has that right to do that. But she has the right to feel safe when she's doing all those daily activities. She claims she does feel safe, she knows the chair's limitations, But why have limitations when the funding could be put there for a brand new chair for her?
By nature, people don't want to impose, and they say those things. I mean, how many times have you gone to the doctor and he says, "How are you?" and you go, "Oh, I'm good, thanks." Now, if you were good, you wouldn't be at the doctor
Exactly.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So when she says she feels safe, even though I can't speak for her, I'd almost feel that it's probably only one side of how she feels, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how do you think we can... I wasn't aware of this sort of thing. How do you think... No, let me think. So does it depend on whether you're self-funded, whether you're managed? Does that make a difference in things like buying wheelchairs, or is it the same with everybody?
Well, I think like some of these unexpected expenses that can come up, like the iPad, it's just the new app for his communication tool can't be uploaded with the old version, so he needs a new one. If we would have foreseen that with his last review, we could have, put in all the, and same with the wheelchair. It's because this person is saying, I'm fine with it, I'm safe with it, and not, speaking out loud.
So don't say those things, is what you're really saying to the people. Be honest.
Yeah, and I'm trying to empower her with the education that we can fight for this and you're entitled to a new chair. It's not you've got to grovel or get down on your knees or beg for something.
Although it seems in some ways, I mean,
you had to
jump through hoops to get an iPad, for heaven's sake.
Well, I can see, like, the NDIA interview them, find out what their goals and needs and everything are, then they allocate the funds, which a lot of them are stated, which means that they can only be spent in that certain way or for a certain thing.
What about core funding? Could the person have bought the iPad out of their core funding?
The core funding is for community access and their individual support. There's not enough hours there now. So you don't, you've got to think, if I take from there...
You could take, but you'd lose in other areas. So I guess what you're saying is, yes, he could have used that money for an iPad, but he would suffer in the way of services. Is that correct?
Yeah, he only really gets 5 hours a day now of one-on-one support, and that's covered in his core. So, I don't want to take that. Yeah, it shouldn't be that I have to take something away.
He could use the core funding, but it would cost him in services. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it'd be very hard to have that conversation with him.
I don't think you should have to.
No.
I just wanted to understand the mechanics of it. That was all.
Yeah.
So,
or I could even go to the public trust and ask them for him to pay for it out of his own finances. But again, that's But
why should he if it's part of what he should be getting?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. If it's what he's entitled to, he
so
should be able
we'll
to
probably
get
get you back again. But just two things. What is the most heartwarming? Oh, no, we'll start off with the negative. What's the most disappointing thing that's happened to you with a client in the NDIS? What's annoyed you the most? Can you tell me? And then we'll go to what's the best. So I just want to understand the extremes.
Well, probably...
Most frustrating, perhaps, is the one.
The most frustrating thing for me is making promises to participants of, we're going to provide the staff that you need, because you don't want to allow a whole heap of different people into your life. It's the ones that you make a rapport with and that you connect with, that you want to help support you. So what's been disappointing around that is when those staff leave. Because it affects everybody.
It's kind of inevitable, I guess, though.
Yeah. They are going to want to go on holidays, even if they do stay with your organisation. But family commitments or something why they've left, and then it's kind of a loss.
You bring up another kettle of fish. If one of your clients wants to go on holidays. Can you accompany them, and does the NDIS pay any of that?
Yes, yep. The participant might have to pay for airfares or things like that. But there's a lot, like the support worker can go and assist you one-on-one or for a few hours each day. Those kind of things.
And if you needed a separate room, would the NDIS pay for your room while he or her is in their room? Or
there is the short stay accommodation, that funding there, where the organisation pays the rent of a place or something. Like if somebody's getting house renovations, under the NDIS, they could maybe stay in a hotel and have a holiday, and that short stay accommodation funds actually covers all
That's
the
another
costs.
whole area, isn't it, which we might talk about later.
Yeah.
What about the most heartwarming thing that's happened for you since you've been working with the NDIS?
I believe it just happened to me the other day. I had a mother cry so many happy tears because she can see the change in her son, and that she walked in, well, she went to visit the house and she could hear singing and laughter and everything when she was getting out of the car. And when she came in, her son actually sang her a song that he wrote, and he's never done that before, and he's
amazing.
26. And she spent 20 minutes.
I think
with
I'll
the,
cry, so don't tell me anymore.
Oh yeah, well I was pretty much the same. It can be a thankless role, but you don't need a thank you when those moments happen.
Yeah, that's why you do it, isn't it? Apart from the wages, but this is not a job you do for the money. There's a lot easier jobs you could do for the same amount of money, isn't there?
Yep.
So and that's one of the good things. A lot of the people that do work in this industry are in there for the right reasons. And the ones that aren't in there for the right reasons usually get weeded out pretty quick by the ones that are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad that mentality changed around the industry. It's, you don't... When I first started in aged care, it was there's always one person in every facility that shouldn't be there. It's
like going on a tour. There's always one person in a tour group. Anyway,
yeah, exactly. That can ruin your whole holiday. Well, imagine being living in that facility as an elderly person, putting up with that person every time they come on shift. Yeah. So it's more or less, it's not dobbing in anymore. It's a way of improving. When you go to your boss and say, look, this person did something. I like the thinking that nobody will deliberately do something to upset anybody in this industry. It's more or less that they need more education or more understanding around the role that they're doing at that time. And it's a way of improving, and we can't fix anything unless we don't know about it. We need to know about it first, and then we can go in and try and fix it. Mm-hmm.
Well, Jill, it's been fun chatting to you. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Just before I go, I will say that this program is supported by Simple Solutions in Hervey Bay, and also Hello World Travel in Hervey Bay. Thank you very much, Hervey Bay. And if you are watching it and enjoying it, it would help us a lot if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the little notification button so that we can continue to grow the audience and get some funding. If you want to fund us, the Patreon is there, and even if it's just $1 or $2 a week, everything helps to bring the spin to the people who, not only the people who are in our situation, but the people who need to learn about it. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on The Spin.
That felt really good.